Welcome back to The PA is In. I'm Tracy Bingaman. If you're a clinician who looks wildly together at work, but somehow ends up eating in the car, standing at the counter, or polishing off snacks you didn't even choose to eat, this episode is for you. Because usually the problem with our eating habits isn't willpower. It's stress. It's chronic decision fatigue. It's a nervous system that's been living in fight or flight since training. Except you're 10 years in and you're still running on adrenaline and iced coffee. Today's guest is Kate Johnston. She's coming back to the podcast as one of our very first interviews inside of our Entrepreneur series. Kate is a former PA of 15 years who made the leap into full-time coaching. Now she helps women in healthcare to break free from emotional eating, overeating, and that constant loop where we're struggling with losing weight and the way that we see and feel about our bodies, so that they can feel at peace with food, trust their bodies again, and lose weight sustainably without turning their life into a 2-a-day workout macro spreadsheet or a list of foods that you can or can't eat. And full disclosure, I'm not just a big fan of Kate's. I'm a former client. Working with her has changed how I think about food and trust and trusting myself and stress in a way that has stayed with me for years. Especially in this world where GLP-1s are everywhere. And the message is basically just control your body harder, just try harder, take this medication, just eat less and exercise more. This conversation is different. We're talking about what's actually underneath the habit of overeating or stress eating, the nervous system, the identity shift, and the things that we have to change inside our minds to make that change in our body. The patterns that we as clinicians develop just to survive the day, and how you can interrupt them and change them without feeling guilt or shame. Plus, Kate pulls back the curtain on her transition from PA to entrepreneur, what surprised her, what she'd do differently, and the mindset shifts clinicians have to make when they go from go to work, get the paycheck, to building something that requires marketing, selling, and visibility. If you've ever felt stuck in your relationship with food, or stuck in the identity of I'm a clinician only and I don't know how to run a business, you're going to feel really seen listening to this one. All right, let's get started. Welcome to The PA is In, the show created by PAs for PAs, where codependency with your supervising physician is a thing of the past, optimal team practice is the future, and physician associate has taken the place of physician assistant as the professional title of choice. I'm Tracy Bingaman, and I'm obsessed with redefining what success as a PA looks like and what it feels like. Here you'll find the mindset shifts, systems, and processes I use to escape healthcare burnout and integrate my work into my life. Work-life balance is a myth, and an integrated life where you thrive professionally, not a balancing act, is the goal here. My mission is to help you to grow into a unicorn PA who loves their job, has abundant energy, time to spare, and work-optional financial freedom. The PA is in. Kate, welcome to the podcast. Welcome back, I should say. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much, Tracy. I loved being on here the first time, so I was thrilled when you invited me on again.
So this will be one of the very first interviews that we air as a part of our new entrepreneurship series. So tell us a little bit about you and what you do.
My name is Kate Johnston. I was a PA for 15 years. I was a baby. Essentially, I was 23 years old when I started. And now I am a full-time coach and entrepreneur. I help women in healthcare break free from eating habits like emotional eating and overeating so they can feel really like at peace with food and their bodies and lose weight sustainably, because oftentimes that is a goal.
In the interest of full disclosure, I am a huge fan of Kate's, and I'm also a former client who went through her program. I'm a huge fan of the coaching and the process. And I think in a world where GLP-1s are having a moment, right? And people are sort of looking for ways that they can control their weight. It was really, really fascinating to be in coaching with you. And it was not about controlling your weight. I did lose weight as a part of working with you, and I continue to engage those strategies and do those things ongoing. But it was much more about thinking about eating intuitively, healing my relationship with food. So, can you talk to us a little bit about how your program is different than like calling up some random clinician and asking for GLP-1 meds or doing it on your own?
The difference, I think the main difference really is addressing the underlying things that naturally contributed to the eating habits that you are struggling. So the things that occur in the brain and in the body that also have a negative impact on other things. So, for example, a dysregulated nervous system can really contribute to overeating and emotional eating. And that's just when your nervous system is kind of stuck in a state of fight or flight or freeze. And so then, therefore, it feels unsafe. And this can actually really impact us. And actually, a lot of times we get a dysregulated nervous system from being a PA, from the lifestyle, from the high stress of the job. And so it can be this endless cycle. And then also, besides just emotions, but also just habits and how our brain conserves energy by creating habits or neural.
I will not spend this whole episode singing your praises, but I will tell you that it has been years since I was your client. And I feel better about myself now in my mid 30s than I did really at any point, which I think is a combination of healing and being strong and also realizing like there is no bounce back. My body is never going to look exactly the way it did before several humans inhabited it with me and then came into the world that I get to raise. But there is one thing that we talked about when we were coaching, which was if I get home from work before my kids get home, if I'm out running errands, if I'm at the office and I come home before they get home, I had this habit of like eating something that I would never eat in front of them. Like I was like, I'm going to quick have like my moment and this like snack before. I think it was really that like the chaos of the day, this like minute of peace in the car, and then a quiet house before everyone got off the bus and came home that I was like, it's my time, right? I'm going to just like indulge. But it was so, I would do it every time that I came home. And I remember this conversation where you were like, why are you doing that? Like, what do you think you're feeling? Like, what do you think is going on? And some of the strategies that we've talked about in terms of just like tuning in and like, how do your emotions feel in your body? And also like preempting that. So sometimes I will literally think of you like several times a week, Kate. I'm driving home and I'm like, okay, when I get home, I'm going to do the following, right? I'm going to put my lunchbox away. I'm going to put my, coat up, and then I'm going to get a baby bell cheese and some tomatoes because then I'm eating something like I'm like doing a little bit of the thing, but I'm doing it in a way that feels like controlled and on purpose and not like, oops, I came home and ate a whole sleeve of Oreos like real quick and I don't feel good about that. And also like my kids are going to catch me in the kitchen, like binging these cookies as they're getting off the bus.
Right, absolutely. And I love what you said about it being on purpose because like we all just want to feel in control of like ourselves, and when we don't have that, like that's what feels so terrible. So, yeah, we can even be like, yeah, I'm going to have that cookie like intentionally. Like I'm going to decide ahead of time to have that cookie, and that's so awesome. And it's so awesome that you feel better now than you did years ago.
Yeah, I mean, I think that is a feat, right? It's growth and it's change and it's a whole lot of body positivity, despite what the internet says about bodies. And I'm just really grateful for your coaching and your continued, you continue to serve me well with the podcast and all these other things that you put out there in the world. So I think that you would make an exceptional PA. I'm sure you were an exceptional PA. Tell me about what you did in healthcare and why you chose to leave to do this different thing. You know that connection is one of my core values. So when I saw that Sermo created a new space for APPs specifically, I jumped at the chance to join. I joined because it's a space built specifically for PAs and NPs, a community where I could connect with providers who actually get it. I was drawn in by the opportunity to share insights, hear real stories, and honestly, also by the chance to earn a little extra money through surveys. And let me tell you, it's been worth it. In less than a year, I've made over $1,000 just by sharing my expertise in answering surveys. But beyond the income, the biggest value of the Sermo APP community has been realizing that I am not alone. Seeing what others are going through, whether it's burnout, work life balance struggles, or even clinical challenges, and celebrating their successes. It has made such a difference in how I approach my career. If you're looking for a reliable additional income stream and a vetted community of like minded providers, Sermo is where you need to be. It's the best place to learn about trends, see how others are doing, and make strong connections. Sign up today using the link in the show notes and join me inside this community of clinicians. And you'll even get a $20 bonus just for joining. Because in medicine, we're stronger together.
Started out in orthopedic surgery at a level 1 trauma center, St. Luke's. I know you're familiar. And I was there for 6 years. I was so stressed. I was so anxious. All the things. I was definitely burnt out, and I my body, essentially my brain, learned to turn to food. So I was emotionally eating for comfort, relief, for reward at the end of the day. I ended up moving location wise up here to New England, to Rhode Island. And part of the reason for the move was because I thought that my stress and all the things was like 100% due to my job. And so I didn't really necessarily like find another job in the area that was really exciting me. And I'd always wanted to move to Rhode Island. So I was like, you know what, let's do it. I found a job right away in spine surgery, moved up here, and the hours were better. The stress was less, but I felt the same. And so I realized like my circumstances changed big time, and it felt a little bit better kind of like immediately, but not a whole lot better. And at that point, I had actually sort of treated my own emotional eating and lost the weight that I had gained because of that. But I ended up doing spine surgery for 6 years and wanted a little bit of a change in lifestyle. Didn't want to be in the OR all the time. Still felt pretty stressed and anxious. So I changed my circumstances again and went to an office based spine job. And I felt a little bit better, but then I was missing the OR. So I was like, geez, like nothing's going to make you happy, Kate, is it? And I started to learn about coaching and entrepreneurship, partly due to this life coaching membership that I became part of. And I have to give this coach credit. Her name is Natalie Bacon, and she actually now she used to focus on more like type A, like high achieving women, and now it's more geared towards moms. But she's wonderful. She has a wonderful membership, and I learned just really a lot about how like your thoughts will create your emotions and then impact your actions. And then your actions, of course, always result in something. And you can have any thoughts that you want to about like a circumstance. So essentially, I was like, wow, this is a really awesome like concept. And it one thing led to another. I started getting really interested in habits, and then I started really getting interested in eating habits and all the things, and just learning a lot more. And it inspired me to make a pretty drastic change, not because I was like super unhappy in the field. There's with anything, there's like life is 50-50, right? Like there's 50% not so great things, 50% great things. And I felt that way about my career as a PA, super rewarding, lots of wonderful things. And then, of course,
And was this transition for you? Did you quit your full time ortho position and the next day open up a coaching business? Had you started to prove the concept, to take on clients, to earn money on the side as you were continuing to practice medicine?
great question. So what I did is something I would not do again. um, I
Me, every time I've talked about my experience with burnout, career changes, or starting a business, like, don't do what I did.
right, exactly, exactly. So I think I had the false belief that I was going to need all the time in the week to start building my business, and that I really needed it all to focus on that, and that I was just going to kind of like go and hit it hard and do all the things and like, you know, put the business up and clients were going to start rolling in. I think partly because of like when the mindset I had, and maybe you can relate to this, but I feel like when you get you get your job as a PA and like basically like you work hard and it pays off, right? You have patients that you see, you work hard at seeing the patients and seeing them on time and producing good results for your patients. And at the end of the day, you have happy patients. Like you've seen all the patients, the charts are all done, like all the things, and you get your paycheck at the end of your 2 weeks. So it's very much like you work hard and like you accomplish the thing and that's it. And I thought that that's how it was going to be in business. And I learned that that's not necessarily how it translates.
What were the biggest surprises for you in that first year of entrepreneurship? So it sounds like the first one might be that field of dreams. Like, if you build it, they will come. And like we've talked about this before, where it's like if you build it and then you tell them about it and then you get them on an email list and then you remind them of it and then you tell them about it again and then you tell them about it again, then they will come.
Well, one of the things that surprised me was I think that very first year I went in and I was like, I'm just going to help people with their eating habits. But like eating habits is very broad, right? I mean, so a lot of people confused me with thinking that I was a nutritionist, that I was going to create meal plans for them. Um, so I think I didn't do a good enough job of like honing in on what exactly it was that I was going to be helping them with. And so once I started realizing that it was, and once and part of the reason why I started realizing that was talking to people, like when I did start getting consults and talking to them and seeing like what they thought I helped with versus what I actually wanted to help with, and the disconnect there, I started realizing like what I actually need to say in social media posts, in emails, and I didn't have a podcast just yet, but at least then I knew when I started my podcast kind of more of what I needed to talk about. And actually, I still continued to kind of learn that even in year 2 and 3 and beyond.
So, I mean, everyone will say in business the riches are in the niches. And so since then, have you further niched, like from like everyone and their eating habits to something more specific to something more specific?
So initially, I was told to, like, well, what do you want to help with? And eating habits was the answer. And then who do you want to help? So I was like, well, I want to help career women. I don't know. That just sounded really good to me. And I thought that that was specific enough. And in fact, I'd get questioned by like my dad. He was like, well, doesn't that narrow it down a lot? Like, are you going to have enough people you can help? And so I was like, yeah, totally. Um, what I found was actually that even that can still be a little bit broad. I mean, not necessarily. I did just fine with that, but then I started realizing, like, with all the coaches out there, with all the noise, with all the things out there, especially on social media, like the better you got to talking to one specific person, the more people were are like, "Oh, this is the person that I need in my life. Like this is the person that can help me," because they're seeing, posts from probably, 10, 20 different um, people or coaches or what have you, or companies that are helping with food and helping with weight loss. So, how do they choose? So, essentially, you're just helping them to get what they really want by being more specific and talking directly to them.
I found that too when I stopped talking about working motherhood in general and started talking about being a PA and working in healthcare. When I made that shift, I was also very nervous. Like, oh no, I'm about to eliminate so many potential clients, so many potential listeners. And when I made that shift, I started getting replies to my emails. Like, it's like you're reading my mail. It's like you're in my head. It's like you know exactly what it's like to be at the bedside, in the trenches, like doing this thing and feeling this way. And I was like, well, yeah, because that is me. And that's who I want to serve, because it's really, honestly, it's who I needed when I was looking for a coach and one didn't exist.
Right. Yes, absolutely. And it's so nice because you feel really connected then to your client because you're like, I get it. I understand. Like, I was, especially if you struggled with the same thing that you're helping them with, like, I was you. I get all the little things, all the thoughts that are going on in your head, all the emotions that you're experiencing throughout the day, and all the actions that you're doing or you're not doing that you're frustrated with.
So, talk to me a little bit about your mindset shift. So, you stepped completely away from being a clinician and now you're an entrepreneur. How was that transition for you? And what, if any, has that sort of like mindset and getting your mindset right when it comes to running a business has made a difference for you?
Main role. I was like, well, I was a clinician, so I can be a coach, right? It was really hard to let go of that PA identity. I felt like I was losing a part of myself. I had put so much self-worth into being a PA. I was tying my self-worth to that. So then when I felt like I was no longer that, and especially since this was like a very intentional move, um, I felt like I had lost a lot of like my own self-worth. Now, I'm a coach. I know that like we don't get self-worth from things. We're all born worthy. Um, and we sort of just lose sight of that. We don't realize because of all the things in life. Um, but I think once really the mindset shift that I had to have was I am worthy regardless. I am bringing value to the world. And even if I wasn't bringing value to the world, like I'm still worthy as a human being. And this role as a coach versus a clinician is like I am still helping people. I'm still doing the exact same thing essentially as I did as a PA. Like I am helping people feel better. And that's huge. And I think another important thing to realize is that like we really have two big roles when we are entrepreneurs. So we have the entrepreneur role, which then, of course, includes um, roles of like you have to market, right? So you have to have a skill in marketing, you have to sell, so you have to have a skill like in sales, right? Essentially, and you have to have lots of different skills and lots of different roles kind of underneath that entrepreneur main role. But then you have like whatever service it is you're providing, like if it is that you're coaching or if you're still keeping a clinician role, you also still have that role. And they're two very separate things. And so that that main skill that you have as a clinician and or as a coach or whatever it may be, that main role is delivering to your clients, right? To delivering and serving your clients, which is going to be a separate skill than the skills required of being an entrepreneur.
Yeah, it's so funny when we do an intake form for when people schedule to be on the podcast, and I had a little box in there and said, "What is your current role in your company?" Right? I'm looking for CEO, founder, like what do you do? And you put coach, marketer, salesperson, copywriter, website developer, all the things. And I read it and I literally laughed out loud because I was like, "Kate, same, like same. I'm over here doing the most so that I could get people to let me do the thing that I am really actually good at, which is the coaching, right? Like I'm like, come on, like look at look at this, look at this, look at this, like juggling, and then once I get your attention, I'm like, here is what I'm good at. Here is why I'm doing this. Here is who I serve and how I serve them. And it's such a good reminder that in healthcare we have a lane. We see patients, we do the note, we see the next patient. Like that is the thing that we are doing. That is the deliverable, is the healthcare and the documentation of the healthcare, unfortunately. but that there's so many other things that go into that. Like if you work at a huge health network, think about like you're driving down the interstate and you see a billboard for your own hospital, right? Best place to work, best place for children's surgery, best place. They have a whole department that's marketing. They have a whole department that's selling. They have a whole department about strategic partnerships and IT. And then when you go out on your own and you're a solopreneur, which so many of us are out of the gate, you are suddenly and sometimes unwillingly filling all of those roles that maybe you didn't even realize you had to fill because someone had always done the marketing for you. You always have a line of patients, right? You have a cancellation list. There's people wanting to see you, wanting to get in the door. And there's always demand in the market, but it's a very different kind of demand than working in healthcare and booking out through June, right? It's just different.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. And the thing is too is like people see healthcare as like a basic need and they don't necessarily see like your services that you're offering as like something that's needed. Sometimes they see it maybe as, oh, that's a luxury I'd love to have someday. But a lot of time it is an actual need, which is why people go into that in the first place to give people something that they need that's not always available to them.
So I would love to give you a moment to brag about yourself and also tell us something that you're working on. So what is something that you feel like you have just absolutely nailing that you do really well in business? And what's one thing that you're working to improve?
Oh, let's see. So one thing I can say that I do really well is over delivering. So like the role as the coach and recently, I have created an app to go along with my coaching program. My coaching program is always evolving and improving. And I think that's really important to focus on like this delivery to the people who you're serving. Because ultimately, like that's why we all went into healthcare, right? Because we want to help people. And so when you always focus on that as the main goal, like you're always then your brain is always thinking about what else can I do to like make this process easier for them to create results even faster for them. So I just decided that um, even though I'm in my 40s and internet didn't really start coming out, we didn't really start using computers until I was, I don't know, like middle school. I try to embrace technology as much as I can and try to do a lot of these things on my own. So I recently created an app to for my clients to help make it just so much easier for them to make the changes that they're making like during the actual program. So I'd say that's something exciting that I've just been working on and part of probably my strongest point. My um, another thing I'm working on is my weakest point, which I think honestly is selling and also in front of more people. So I tend to be a little bit more subtle. I tend to always be the person that would rather sit in the back of the classroom and kind of hide behind the bigger person in front of me and not stick my hand up a whole lot. So this is something that um, I know needs to happen. Like I have a really good, essentially, lack of a better term, product to deliver as far as that can help people. And so I think for me, getting in front of more people, not being afraid of visibility is something that is going to serve my people better and a skill I definitely need and want to work on. And then, of course, selling. I think I kind of got caught up in like, oh, I just want to help people. I want to help people. I want to help people. And so my podcast was a lot of like, I'm going to help them with just, just this one episode. I'm going to help them. Um, Kind of forgetting about, oh, well, also like if I want to help them further, I have to talk to them about my coaching a little bit more. And this essentially is selling. Selling is not like the gross icky stuff. Like you don't, it doesn't have to be that gross icky stuff. It's more of who you're being to try to help someone to get more of what they want. Like that's how I really like to think of selling. That's how it's been taught to me. Is just essentially you are making it easier for someone to get what they really want for themselves. If they don't really want it, then they're not going to They're not going to book a free consult kind of a thing.
Are you confident you know where your next dollar should go? 403b, 457, HSA, or Roth? There are so many options. Sometimes it can feel overwhelming. A lot of providers aren't sure if their investment mix is optimized, if they're contributing enough to their investment accounts, or if they're paying too much in taxes. Meet Caleb Pepperday, a fee only financial planner and founder of Advanced Practice Planning, LLC. Caleb helps PAs create a clear plan of action that allows them to fast track their path to work optional living, all while keeping more of what they earn today. Caleb's process identifies the strategies that make the most sense for each PA situation and provides step-by-step guidance to put them into action. For our listeners, Caleb is offering a free one-on-one consultation where he will provide feedback on the steps you've taken in your own financial situation and if you're on track to achieve your goals. Caleb will also help you to determine if your situation warrants needing to work with a financial planner or if you're on track doing it by yourself. Head to advancedpracticeplanning.com/FI to grab your free consultation time slot. These consultations are capped each week to keep turnaround fast. That's advancedpracticeplanning.com/FI.
Advanced Practice Planning LLC is a registered investment advisor in Montana and Pennsylvania. Advisory services are only offered to clients or prospective clients where Advanced Practice Planning LLC and its representatives are properly registered or exempt from registration. Registration as an investment advisor is not an endorsement of the firm by securities regulators and does not mean the advisor has achieved a specific level of skill or ability. This advertisement is for informational purposes only and does not constitute individualized advice or a guarantee that you will achieve a desired result. All topics discussed in this podcast are the opinion of the podcast host and not of Advanced Practice Planning LLC or its advisors.
Absolutely. And as someone who did a free consult with you and ended up immediately engaging your services, I will just reassure you that there was no part of that where I felt like I was being sold to. Like I could have walked away from that free consult with very tangible things that I could have DIY implemented myself and still had a positive outcome. Certainly, I think engaging in the program and the accountability of a 6 month, relationship and those ongoing calls that we had every Monday at 2, right? Like those things were very, tangible for me and served as a touchstone. One of the things that's helped me when it comes to selling, which again, I think is a thing that just makes us like feel like a used car salesman, right? Like I'm selling, is I heard it described once as like you're serving people and then you're inviting them to go deeper, right? You're inviting them to engage. You're not saying like, buy now, buy now, buy now. You're just saying, hey, I'm serving you. And here's an invitation to join me inside of this program, inside of this membership, inside of this coaching. And then you keep doing that. You keep serving and you keep inviting. And then people get to choose whether they say, yes, thanks, I would like to, or no, thanks for your free content. It's helped a lot, right? Either way is fine.
Exactly, exactly. And that's the important thing is like, yeah, people get to choose like what they want and you're never like we don't have control over someone else's brain. So ultimately like they're the ones making the decision and you're just kind of giving the information that would help to make the decision that they feel very like comfortable with.
All right. As we wrap up here, if you could go back and tell the brand new entrepreneur you anything, or the listener who is on the cusp of being a brand new entrepreneur, what would be the advice that you would give? What would you say to that person?
Yeah. So I think the very first piece of advice that I always go back to that I feel like I is something that will make you feel good. It'll make the business thrive and it'll make the people on the receiving end feel really good is to always be in service of them. Like always stick with like the reason you got into medicine, which is essentially like your care, your concern, your love of people. And connection is something that I think is rooted in service and also like love, like not to sound cheesy, but really like other love of human beings. And so, whatever actions you're taking, if you're doing them in service of others and not thinking about like what you're getting out of it, you will always win. And so and I think that really ties into what we were just talking about with selling and inviting them in, and it never ever has to be like icky as, if you're coming from a really good place and being the person that you want to be, that helpful person, then it's never going to come across in a negative way. So that's probably my first one. My second one, I think, ties back to um, when you had asked me, like, did you just jump in like full time to entrepreneurship? So my second one is really, I learned this from my coach recently. Actually, I'm in a mastermind, and I wish I had this before I started, but she encourages people to protect their revenue. And so when she does this, she's talking about like if you're going from like one on one coaching to group coaching or something like that. But I think this is really applicable to if you're making the transition from being a PA to going into business. So one of the lessons I learned, also with one of your earlier questions, is that don't have your business, like, don't put all the pressure on your business to replace your PA revenue. Not right away, at least. I put a ton of pressure on my business to replace my PA revenue. And I thought partly because I was like, oh, if I work really hard, it'll happen. Um, but then, of course, I had this pressure. So then I became resentful when it wasn't happening as I expected. And so if you are able to just kind of go full-time PA to full-time entrepreneur because you have the finances to back it up, great. And we did, but I still put a lot of pressure on myself because I'd been so used to making a certain amount of revenue. Um, and so if you are used to that, just beware, you might put pressure on yourself to make that all back. So protect your revenue, um, meaning like if there is an opportunity to go part-time and just do like a part-time gig and then do your business as well, or even full-time but start building your business, like say in the evenings, on the weekends, or do per diem. I actually ended up, they asked me to come on per diem when I made my transition. So actually I did have that, I think 1 day a week. But yeah, really protect your revenue so that you don't have to put all of that on your business, because your business is a baby in the beginning. And so you want to nurture that baby. You don't want to put too much responsibility on it.
Yeah, you don't send it off to college the first year and ask it to have an ROI, right? It's brand new. Um, the thing that I also think makes this transition particularly challenging for healthcare clinicians and PAs specifically is that it's my personal opinion that PAs working full time should all be making six figures. And so if you're making six figures and you walk away completely from that income, there are very few entrepreneurs who the first inning, the first pitch, the first, first idea out of the gate hit a grand slam and end up making six figures in your business in the first year. And if you are, you also have expenses associated with that. So people who are saying like six figure, seven figure business, they also have expenses. They're quoting that gross revenue off of the top, which is amazing. Like I am cheering for all of the people who are making six and seven figures in their business. It's not as simple as the internet would like you to believe. So the people who are saying all you have to do to have a $10,000 month is to get 10 people to pay you $1,000 sounds very simple, right? Well, yeah, but you also need a product, a tested marketplace, a pipeline, marketing, sales, the right people, a product that's really going to serve them well. And that doesn't happen on month 2 of your business. That happens on month 12, and it gets better on month 20, and it gets better on month 30. Like it takes a while to hone this and get it to the point where it replaces your PA income. But I still love it, and I still think it's very worthwhile. Just be strategic about the way that you do it.
Exactly. Exactly. Yes. Cause yeah, there are the expenses, like you said. So all of a sudden, so even if you made 100K the first year, you're going to have to subtract that, right? The expenses. And then also, um, I think it depends on the state you're in, but a lot of times you end up paying more taxes as an entrepreneur as well. I know Rhode Island, we get taxed extra just for being a business owner. Yeah. Yeah. Yes. So there is all of that too. So yeah, looking at the profit versus like the total revenue.
If people are listening, they want to follow along because they feel inspired by you building this business. They want to engage your services because they also want to heal that relationship they have with food. Where can they go to follow along, learn from you, and find out more?
I'd say the main hub would be my website. So that's katemjohnston.com. I have a podcast. So that's called Eating Habits for Life. And it's geared towards women in healthcare. So in it, you'll hear me talking about overeating, emotional eating, cravings, mindless eating, night snacking, like, and all different specific things that reasons why women in healthcare are more prone to these, some of the underlying things with that, the situations, mindset shifts, little action strategies, all different things around that. My Instagram is Kate Johnston Coaching, and I'm also on LinkedIn as well.
Awesome. Well, Kate, thank you so much for being willing to be vulnerable and share what's going well and not so well, what you're working on in your business, and just painting this beautiful picture of what's possible on the other side of clinical medicine for people who are thinking, hey, how can I help and serve people in a different way?
Thank you so, so much, Tracy. This was really fun, and I hope that everyone took away some useful things that maybe they haven't heard yet.
Congratulations. You've just joined an awesome club. By listening to a full episode of The PA is In, you are officially on the Unicorn PA team. Welcome aboard. What most team members do is they subscribe to the podcast because that allows them to automatically get the latest episode of the show. The life of your dreams exists on the other side of taking action. Keep making small shifts and keep getting better. Your life will improve, your career will soar, and you will have the confidence you need to create your own success. I will see you in the next episode. This PA is out. All right. That was Kate Johnston. Don't you feel calmer and more in control of your thoughts and your actions after listening to her? I hope that you're leaving this conversation with two big takeaways. First of all, your eating habits aren't a character flaw. They're information. They're patterns your brain and body build to cope with stress, exhaustion, and the relentless pace of working in healthcare. And secondly, if you're building something outside of medicine or even just thinking about it, protect your revenue and stop asking your brand new business baby to pay your mortgage on day one. Now, if you're listening and you're thinking, okay, Tracy, I feel called out in the most loving way and I want help, here's what you can do next. Go and follow Kate. She is the real deal. If you are looking for that type of coaching, there is no one better in this space than Kate. Her website is katemjohnston.com. Her podcast is Eating Habits for Life, and she's on Instagram at Kate Johnston Coaching. She and I connected on LinkedIn, so I will link her LinkedIn in the show notes and have all of those things in the show notes down below. And if this episode lit something up in you, whether it's excitement about food freedom or the thought that you could have one of these identity shifts, or that building a life that doesn't require you to white knuckle your way through the work week, and that spark is sort of burning and that ember is burning, I want to invite you to stay connected here too. Make sure that you're subscribed to the PA is In so that you don't miss the rest of this entrepreneurship series because we are just getting started. We're talking real numbers, mindset shifts, strategy from clinicians who are building businesses that actually support their lives. And if you know of a clinician friend who's stuck in that, I'm fine, I'm just stress eating Cheez-Its and drinking a Coke because at work I don't know how to control my nervous system phase, or someone who you know who's quietly wondering if there's more beyond clinical medicine, send them this episode. Hey, this made me think of you and I think you might enjoy a listen. That share might be the first step that helps them to feel more seen and less alone. Thank you, as always, for tuning in to another episode of The PA is In. That's all for today. This PA is out.